The NBA officially returned on Tuesday night with two amazing games of basketball that were entertaining to watch down to the very end. We saw the defending champion Raptors receive their rings, we saw the highly anticipated Battle of LA, with Kawhi in a Clippers uniform and AD in a Lakers uniform for the first times, and then we also got to see how the Lakers' former young core looked for the first time in Pelicans uniforms. But for today's video, we're going to be focusing on something from one of those teams that has flown a bit more under the radar. Today, we're going to be discussing Stanley Johnson of the Toronto Raptors, whose career has definitely not progressed as well as most thought it would. He was signed by the Raptors this summer, yet in the season opener didn't play a single second, despite being who many thought would be someone to take some of the minutes on the wing that Kawhi Leonard left. So we're going to discuss what got him to this point, where he goes from here, and why he's even in this situation in the first place. Before we get started though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Stanley Johnson is definitely no stranger to playing basketball on the biggest stage, and from very early on, he began to get immense praise and hype as potentially being something special. Coming out of high school, he was one of the very best players in the recruiting class of 2014, and on 247 Sports, he was even ranked the third best overall in that class. He completely dominated the California basketball scene, winning a state championship every single year of his 4 seasons at Mater Dei. He was named both a McDonald's All-American and a Jordan Brand All-American, was invited to the Nike Hoop Summit, and was also selected to USA Today's first team All-USA basketball, making him just about as decorated of a high school athlete as humanly possible. As one of the best 5-star recruits that was wanted by every major program, he ultimately chose to commit to play for the University of Arizona, expecting full well going in that he would be a one-and-done player on his way to being drafted in the lottery of next year's draft. As his freshman season at Arizona got into the swing of things, this was still very much going according to plan, because he did have a terrific season for the Wildcats that year. Arizona had a ton of talent on that team, and they all played different roles, so Johnson wasn't necessarily putting up massive numbers on a nightly basis, but as a freshman, he earned a pretty big role right off the bat, and impressed scouts a ton along the way. That Arizona team had other NBA players like TJ McConnell, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and Kadeem Allen, along with a few other important upperclassmen in the rotation, yet it was Johnson who was seen as the player with the most potential. Arizona made it all the way to the Elite Eight that year before getting eliminated from March Madness, capping off Johnson's freshman and only season of college basketball. He was named to both Pac-12 freshman and overall first teams that year, and he officially declared for the draft shortly after that. In the mix of analyzing prospects, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, and predicting what kind of NBA players they could become, Stanley drew some high praise in several categories. For starters, he's 6'7" and weighs almost 250 pounds, giving him a very strong, NBA-ready frame for a wing player. This strength combined with his speed was one of his best assets in college, and he used it to overpower matchups in getting to the rim very often. This bully ball scoring ability was very intriguing, especially because the NBA game is definitely more physical with more strong grown men playing the game on a nightly basis. On top of that, his shooting stroke was visibly pretty textbook, and while he only shot 37% from 3 in college, which is pretty average, his confidence and form were promising to scouts trying to predict whether or not he would be a good shooter at the next level. Lastly, arguably his biggest strength of all was supposed to be his defense, according to pretty much every pre-draft scouting report written about him, because as I mentioned earlier, he had the athleticism and physical tools needed to dominate on that end. He also demonstrated good closeout technique, had the strength to hold his own against some big men, and he had tremendous instincts playing the passing lanes to create some turnovers. With all of this being identified in his game, the comparisons that were thrown his way were very bold and presumptuous, and NBADraft.net even went as far as to say that he compared well to none other than Kawhi Leonard, who has proven to arguably be the best two-way player in the NBA right now. That's legitimately how high some talent evaluators thought of him coming out of the draft. When the draft finally came around, he got drafted in the top 10 at number 8 by the Detroit Pistons, who were excited about potentially adding a promising two-way wing player to a team with aspirations to build strong playoff contenders. As a rookie, his defense is what got him on the court, as expected, but his offensive game was struggling quite a bit. Rookie guards and wing players in the NBA are known to struggle with efficiency and decision-making, so this wasn't necessarily alarming yet, but it definitely did need improvement. He finished his first year off with pretty impressive performances in the playoffs, where he was tasked with defending none other than LeBron James, and while he didn't really stop LeBron, because honestly there are only few people who are even capable of slowing him down, he did make it obvious that he was competing hard with the best player in the world, which should have done a ton for his confidence on defense. He finished the season averaging only 8 points and shooting 37% from the field and 30% from 3, both of which are well below league average, but at the very least, his defense was promising. The next season, which was where many expected him to take a leap as a player and really take control of the Pistons' starting spot on the wing, he just simply didn't, and in many ways took a step back. He took big steps back offensively, shooting worse from both the field and from 3, was given fewer minutes per game instead of more, and never really got much going. This is when things began to get worrisome with Johnson, because for a top 10 pick, he was producing like one of the worst offensive players in the whole league, and regressing after 2 years. Year 3 was the year where he could have turned things around and salvaged his once promising career, because he was inserted into the starting lineup for most of the games he played that season, with the team hoping that, in a bigger role, he would seize the opportunity, but for a third year in a row, he's struggled mightily on offense, shooting for a third straight year below 40% from the field, and now only 29% from 3. After that year, the Pistons pretty much knew they had to move on from him, and last season they traded him to the Pelicans, where Johnson played the fewest minutes per game of his career at only 13 a night. This offseason, he was a free agent, and after the career he's had up until this point, there wasn't really much of a market for him. While others from his draft class were signing big money extensions with their teams, he was just searching for anyone willing to give him a second chance. He's still young, and all hope is not lost, so when he signed with the Raptors for 2 years and about $7 million, you would think that would be the perfect landing spot for him, right? Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green both left the team this same summer, opening up 2 spots in the rotation for wings, and Stanley, needing to prove himself, should have been a perfect fit for one of those spots. Unfortunately, as we saw in Tuesday's season opener, he got a whopping 0 minutes, and that might not be changing anytime soon either. Instead, Terrence Davis, who's a rookie that actually went undrafted this year, is the one getting minutes off the bench on the wing for this team. If you can't beat out an undrafted rookie for minutes, obviously a ton of credit goes to the undrafted guy, but it also has to mean that something's going wrong with you. In an interview with Raptors coach Nick Nurse a week ago, he was asked about how Johnson was playing in practice and if he was fitting into the team's identity on defense, and Nurse did not hold back in his response. He said, and I quote, "Nope, nope, nope. Those guys have not understood A, how hard we play, B, our schemes, that defense is a priority for them. We've got some work to do with that crew. I tell them there's a couple spots open come Tuesday night if somebody wants them, and I keep telling them, show me you're going to play defense, show me you're going to play hard, show me you understand our coverages. And then whatever you do on the other end, you're going to get opportunities just because of who you're on the floor with, and they'll come to you. You don't have to come down and occupy 95% of your mind with how you're going to break down and get your next shot. It's not going to get you on the floor right now, so we've got work to do. We've got to find who's going to blend in quickly defensively with this crew." This is probably the biggest plot twist of Johnson's career yet, because his biggest appeal is supposed to be his defense. If he hasn't even been doing well on that end of the floor, then honestly he may not last much longer in the league. It's tough to say if it's simply a case of a player getting too much hype more so than they deserved, or if there's an issue with the amount of effort he puts into the game or what, but something's been off about him for the entirety of his career. If he can't earn minutes on the Raptors, then it seems unlikely that he'll get another chance after this, which is a shame. It sucks to see players with such promising talent not play up to it, but ultimately not everyone can handle the pressure that comes with it. Obviously, I hope he can get himself figured out and back to being at least the defensive player he was expected to be, because his time in the league is currently ticking away. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts on Stanley down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.